Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Sheila Kamara Hay from Ecstatic Birth, and I'm really, really excited for today's conversation to transform birth. I have with me today Erika Alsborn, who is a sex and birth coach, a JDAG teacher, and a registered nurse. Let's say hi. Hi, Erika.
I'm so excited to be here.
Excited to have you. I met Erika last year when I was applying to be a part of Layla Martin's Sex, Love, and Relationship Coaching Program. And she was the one that kind of was scoping me out to see if I was a good fit. And she shared that she had just had a baby, and we hit it off right away because for me, one of the things that I'm super passionate about is bringing tools of sensuality and sexuality into the birthing room. It's so powerful when a woman consciously does that and has really dramatic effects on her birth experience for the better, because first of all, you're experiencing pleasure as you're birthing your baby, but it also helps your birth progress in all these beautiful ways. So I'm thrilled today to have Erika here because she's going to share her birth story with us, which like always so beautiful and so sacred to hear a woman's birth story. Thank you, Erika, again for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm sitting here with like full body chills, like just running up and down my body, remembering the first time we met, and we did really hit it off. It felt like such a beautiful just chemistry and passions aligning. And every time I think about my birth, I'm just filled with like this incredible joy and awe of what I went through, what I was able to create for myself, and really believing in my vision of what I desired and what I wanted, and making that happen. So, yeah.
So exciting. Yeah, well, why don't we just start there? Like, what was your birth like?
So to start from, the desire. So I was 5 weeks pregnant when I thought about, holy, like, crap, I'm going to give birth. Like, I'm not just pregnant, I'm actually going to give birth. And when that realization sort of landed inside of me really deeply, there was a incredibly strong, intense feeling of, I do not want to birth in a hospital. I want to birth the way I got pregnant, meaning like really beautifully connected to my body, with my sensuality, my sexuality in a spiritual way. I want to be uninterrupted. I want to be free and feel autonomous and be like really quiet, calm, and present. And I felt the hospital wasn't an environment that I could be in to have that sensual sexual experience. So that started a whole like trajectory of its own to research what are my alternatives, getting my husband on board, and like figuring that out. So that's one part, but we don't need to go into like home birthing or hospital birthing. Like, none is good or bad or wrong or better. It's just what I desired. And connected to that,
let you for a quick second and just highlight the word autonomous, because I feel like right now that's a big part of the conversation, both in birth and in the wider world. Like, what does it mean to really make choices for yourself in ways that feel right for you, especially now, right? Because there's a lot of disorientation, and the powers that be that usually tell us what to do, if we were the type to listen, are they're all over the place. And so that word autonomous is so important, and it's always been so important in birth. So I just really want to like honor you for bringing that forward, and really want to just highlight what you also just shared. Is like, there's no right or wrong for where to birth or how to birth. Like, it's really you having that autonomy to choose what's right for you.
Okay. Yeah, 100%. And thank you for stopping me, because it's really important to look at like each individual person who is giving birth will have an individual desire, and some people won't realize it and just like avoid even thinking about it and just like and some people will have a really strong one or clear one, and for some people that's home birthing, some people it's free birthing, some people it's hospital birthing with like all the machines, everything's hooked up, and like all the pain medication. And for me, it was, I want to birth at home, I want to birth in quiet with my husband, with midwives. I want as little interruption as possible, and I want it to be a really sensual and sacred experience. And that just felt like my body was communicating it so strongly to me that I felt like nauseous and like a little bit like, I don't know, it just knocked me out a little bit how strong that was. And so I realized, okay, this is something that I need to pay attention to and explore. And then I really did get what I desired. I didn't know what to expect, but it really was kind of exactly how I had been envisioning it, in that it was really calm, really beautiful, really gentle, yet swift, essential, pleasurable, at moments orgasmic experience. And I gave birth at home on my bedroom floor. I almost caught my own baby. And one of my key things that I wanted, that was like one of my mantras and main sort of guiding lights, my North Star, was I want to birth my own baby. I want to do it myself. I'm bringing this baby into this world. And I felt throughout through my whole birth, that the people around me really gave me space to do that. My husband, my midwives, and myself as well.
Yeah. And so, you shared with me that you had spent almost 10 years working on your relationship with your body and your sexuality. And I'm curious about how that played out in terms of like, what did you use in your birth from all of that incredible training?
Yeah, so I've done theater. I've done professional theater and dancing before I even got into sexuality, and it was a kind of natural evolution for me as well. And I used all of it, my uninhibited, grounded, primal sounding. I used movement and moving energy with movement, with focus and awareness. I use sensuality, all the holistic tools, the holistic sexuality tools of breathing, moving, sounding, working with energy, and energy focus and awareness. And that was like all of those things combined made me able to be really present for the experience, not go into a downward spiral with pain, but feel elevated by all the intensity of the experience. And I say I had a pain-free birth. That doesn't mean that it wasn't challenging, as it was very challenging at moments. It was really intense, but I could take all that energy that could be coded and interpreted as pain, and instead of going down that negative downward spiral, I could elevate into feeling really energized, feeling really activated, but still letting myself, which my midwife said, you should sleep your baby out, you should rest your baby out. So I could still have that elevated energy moving through my body, coursing through my body, this electricity from my womb and all of the things that were happening, but still feel like I was in a deeply restful, surrendered, like almost transcendent state.
Yeah. I know that when in the world of sexuality, when they talk about like really melting into orgasm, that's a sort of trance state. And in the birthing world as well, there's a lot of talk about like how in birth, like the different levels of the brainwaves you do at your best go into a very deep trance state. Did it feel similar to you?
100%.
Yeah.
The experience was, akin to deep, like some of the deepest orgasms I've had, or orgasmic states I've had in self-pleasure and in my practices with sexuality, and sex as well, of course. Also, for the liberals, for the liberal people who have ever tried any substances that alter your brain into like, other states, similar to that as well. But it was really beyond the regular thinking mind, analyzing things like that. And I realized that started happening when my birth really started, when my active labor started, and I got super sensitive to smell. I got super sensitive to hearing. I told my partner, shut off the washing machine, like take away all things that smell. I can't stand it. Dim the lights. I cannot have it. And everything had to be so slow because I was so sensitive. And so like there was such an omnipresence. And that let me know that I was moving into my primal parts of my brain, primal parts of my being.
I'm getting All kinds of chills just listening to you. All right. So I know I'm super curious, which means probably other people watching are curious. Like, can you take us through like the play by play in your birth and share with us like some of the pleasure tools or some of the practices that you used and what that felt like?
Yeah, absolutely. So before before birth, during my pregnancy, I was committed to my self-pleasure. So to really stay connected to my sensuality throughout my pregnancy, to not sort of disconnect the two experiences, but rather make them feel really like whole and connected and together. So I cultivated that through my pregnancy with sensuality, sexual practices, self-pleasure, really caring for myself. And I also focused a lot on, preparing with my genitals. It's your vaginal canal is usually, used for sex and pleasure, and all of a sudden it's, a birthing canal. So I spent a lot of time really touching myself, really getting intimate with my anatomy, by my genital anatomy, and doing massaging, stretching, gentle practices like that to prepare my physical body for the experience as well. So I had and that I felt was really key to help me feel confident and empowered when I was moving into birthing.
Brilliant.
And then during my birth, breathing, so really slow, sensual breathing, working through intense moments and contractions or waves or whatever surges, whatever you feel like you want to call it, working through those, taking them, approaching them through a place of like, I'm going to absolutely just melt through this. And it's kind of like using your breath to go so deep inside, so that it's almost like when you're in the ocean and there's a massive wave coming towards you and you're like, holy, like, how am I gonna like survive this? And you dive underneath and it's quiet and expansive, and all this mess and is on top of you, and the wave crashes behind you and you're safe. And then comes another one. And my breathing, like with my vision, with my breathing, with my focus, with my awareness, and staying so connected to the sensations of the experience, I could have that experience of going underneath the intensity and sinking deeper and deeper and deeper within, and really finding that my womb was like, yes, I get to be interrupted and like do this powerful work without having you criticizing, judging, analyzing, freaking out, or going into that negative downward spiral of like, this is too painful, this is too hard, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna pause you right there because I feel like what you said is so important and so powerful. So birth is intense, right? And there's a lot of sensation. And so widespread throughout the world, the reaction to intensity, whether it's in birth or in life in general, is to check out, is to numb, is to avoid. And so what you did was the opposite. What you did was, okay, so you're not like running away from the wave. You're not like, okay, I hope I can get to shore before that wave hits, which we know in birth really will prolong your labor, all that resistance and trying to get away from it. But you said, all right, wave, bring it, and like use your tools, your training, your body training and your practices to really like dive in and be very present. That's so powerful. I really wanted to highlight that and say, woohoo, well done. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's one aspect of it. And then I was in water as well. So I spent a good part of it in my bathtub, and being in water makes me always feel sensual and relaxed, and I enjoyed that. So I would, move my body and make the water sway and feel like I was getting a sensual touch that wasn't like another person. And I would also touch myself. So I was stroking myself, I was stroking my body, I was pleasuring myself in different ways. Sometimes it was just like stroking my face or, touching myself like that. Or sometimes it was touching myself in a more like sensual, sexual way, to meet the intensity, and lessen it, and just feel like, hey, we can have like pleasure as well. It's not one or the other. It's not either or. It's both and. it can feel really good, and then it can feel intense, and then I need to rest, and then it can feel really good. And then drinking a lot of water. And even when I was drinking water or eating, like the only thing I ate throughout the whole thing was dates. And I would take like these tiny, tiny, tiny bites because anything else would overwhelm me and be too much or intense. But the sweetness and the freshness of water, even taking that in as a sensual experience, and being really, really conscious by not breaking the spell of that, like just the magic of it. Like, I don't even know how to put words to it. You really can't. But the magic of the moment when you're just diving in deeper, going out further, further offshore, further into the land of the unknown and into the depth of the wild journey that it is, and not breaking that magic.
Yeah, in ecstatic birth preparation, we talk a lot about, you can give yourself pleasure from the outside and you can access pleasure from within. And I think you're already highlighting both when you talk about the date and the sounds and that, right? So that's like pleasure from the outside, making sure like you just feel so like surrounded, and like you can enjoy your own touch, like giving yourself the sensation of pleasure is really, really powerful in birth. And then with the breath and the inner work, that's also like, how do you access pleasure from within?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what else, working with, this, the as a sex coach, and being so experienced with these holistic tools of sexuality, with energy work and energy focus and things like that, that can feel very new to someone who is not familiar with it, but it's has a lot to do with just focus and how you relate to sensations. And I would say to anyone who is curious about that, to start noticing, feelings, emotions, experiences inside your body on a sensational level, rather than saying, that's pain, or this feels like, I don't know. But let's take pain, for example, because that's what a lot of people do experience when giving birth. And instead of relating it and speaking and coding to it as pain, I could feel heat, pressure, piercing sensations, intense tinglings, contraction, expansion, things like that. So relating to it as sensations made me feel like I can handle all of this, because it's not one, like, it's not punching me in the face as pain. I'm relating to each little moment as the individual sensations, moment by moment. And I know that they arise and I know that they fall. And when they're gone, they're gone. They're not coming back. It will be a different sensation next time. And the same with pleasure. So then in between, when there was pleasure, I could relate to pleasure. I was like, oh, that feels so good. And so that made me feel like I was able to stay in the present moment the whole time, and not check out or get overwhelmed or get tired, or tired of the experience, but just stay with it.
Yeah, so important to be able to break it down in that way. And I'm also, because you said it earlier, I'm really curious about like the orgasmic sensations. Like, tell us more about that. How did you come up about feeling that? And just tell us your experience.
At a certain point, I felt too restricted and limited in my bathtub, and I wanted to be able to move. So I got out of the tub, got into the bedroom, where I felt really safe, first and foremost. And I wanted to feel unrestricted in my body. So I lay down on the floor, flat on the floor, and just rested for a moment. And then I got up. So I was standing, rocking, swaying, squatting, kneeling, not constantly moving, but I was in movement. And so I could really work with my body. And I think that's what, belly dancing is so incredible, because it opens your pelvis, your pelvic floor, you get into that part of your body. So movements like that. And that helped me feel like the intensity didn't compound in my cervix or in my vagina, or, it didn't get too painful. And so with that movement in between intensity, there could be like surges of just like, wow, like there's so much power here. And it's not pain, it's not pleasure. I don't know what it is, but it's something. And then I added pleasure again. So I was pleasuring myself, I was touching myself, I was naked throughout the whole experience. And I remember sitting on my knees on the floor. My partner, my husband, was sitting in front of me. I was pleasuring myself, I was masturbating, and he was holding my shoulders. And I was like, I threw my head back and I was like, I feel like I'm coming. It was like, that's amazing, you know. And then that was a moment, and there were other moments like that as well, where it was shifting so rapidly from one experience to the other, and I felt like just this amazing orgasmic ecstatic ride. And even the intensity at that point could feel like ecstasy. And then the quietness, the tranquility felt like ecstasy. It all of that, the whole process of being so calm, so connected, sensual, sexual, and safe, and all of that elevated the whole experience. So at one point it felt like it was all an ecstatic, transcendental experience.
Yeah, I love the way you're describing that, because I think a lot of times when people think about, you know, a birth that's orgasmic or ecstatic, they're thinking of it in the term similar to the way people think about, okay, did I have an orgasm during sex? They're thinking about it as like this like singular climactic moment. And, you know, in sexuality, we know that yes, there is that singular climactic moment, but there's also like the waves and the waves, and it can keep rolling through you. And the same is true in birth, you know, like you can have that intensity and the pleasure and the pain and the waves of orgasmic pleasure and the ecstasy. It's all in there together. So I love how you articulated that and shared that about your experience.
Yeah, yeah. And I think one thing that can help people just relate to it sort of practically is like, if you've done anything else that is super activating and involves all parts of you, and that takes down your thinking mind and gets you into your body, like running, like you know, I like a working out, an intense workout where you feel like you reached that hill, or you know, you went that far, or lifting heavy weights, or even, you know, speaking in front of people and feeling really elevated by the experience and feeling so in flow, driving a car really like it's not just to give people that sense of like, it can be, it's not just that singular moment, and it's not just because it's sexual. It can be, there are so many areas of our life that can be ecstatic. And yeah, so I think that sometimes help people understand of like, well, what do you mean ecstatic? What do you mean orgasmic? Well, running can feel orgasmic and ecstatic.
Yeah,
So
I think the piece that you shared was that requires all parts of you to be present, right? And I think there's a certain amount of presence when an experience is so full body and is so intense, that when you're able to have that presence, there's such joy and there's such pleasure in that.
yeah, yeah. And then of course birthing lends itself to, giving birth lends itself to, you know, this, because it is part of your body. It's a really embodied experience. It involves your sensuality, it involves your sexual organs, it involves like, it was created by sex. And so I really like to see birth as an extension of your sexuality, and the birth experience not so different from sex. It sounds pretty similar. If you have like really great sex, and you have a really great like unhindered birthing experience, it sounds pretty similar. You moan, you groan, you know, you make guttural weird sounds, which I invite everyone to do in sex as well. Like when you have really great sex, it's not the high pitched like, you know, whatever sound. It's really something else. And I really think that before we made birth so sterile, that it was a very primal, and it still is, and it still can be in sterile environments, but it is a very primal, very sexual, and even erotic experience.
Yeah, I'm curious because as you know, I'm so passionate about really cultivating our relationship with our sexuality and always having that and going deeper. for women that are pregnant right now, right, that don't have the luxury of a year or 5 or 10 to really deepen in that, what are some suggestions you would give for ways to connect that could really support them in birth?
Absolutely. You don't need to have done this for 5, 10, or whatever, how many years to really have this kind of experience that I'm talking about. I think the first thing to acknowledge and to really just let that sink in is that it is available to you. It's in your DNA. You really don't need to do anything to have this experience. You just need to get out of your own way and let your body do it. Now, that's easier said than done. So how to practically kind of do that is to work on mind shift. So really looking at what are your current belief systems around birth and how it's a pleasurable, positive, calm, positive, powerful experience. So looking at that and shifting negative beliefs to positive ones, and really making a little ritual around that, writing them down, turning all your negative thoughts into positive ones, burning the negative ones, and like really make a vision board, whatever works for you. And then, like I mentioned, really stay connected to your sensuality and sexuality now that you're pregnant, and see, as your body shifts, as you notice your body's growing and shifting and changing and transforming, take that into your sexuality and celebrate it through your sensual and sexual pleasure. Really celebrate how your body's growing, changing. It's never going to be the same, and that's a good thing. Evolution is change, and nothing stays the same. So bring that into your sexuality, touch yourself externally, internally. Make it as much as possible a sensual, sexual, and even erotic experience to be pregnant with yourself, with your partner, and get really clear on what you want. What do you want? And allow yourself to speak that out loud, to voice that to yourself, to your partner, or whoever is supporting you, or whoever you want there. And try as much as possible to take action. Like, the power is in your hands. Take action, within whatever limitations, or, with the situation we are in now. What can you do that will make you feel as safe, as supported, and as many of your needs fulfilled as possible? Yeah. And then dance, move, really see your pregnancy and your birth as an elevated, positive experience, and bring that into things in your daily actions that help you start feeling and relating to yourself as that. And then I watched, I don't know how many hundreds and hundreds of birthing clips and birthing videos. I felt that really supported me to give me an understanding of how diverse and varied birthing is. I would have not felt so comfortable standing up giving birth and like working through a lot of contractions and a big part of the experience standing if I had not seen other people doing it. Because we have this idea that, you should be lying on your back, someone should be taking the baby out. And that's so ingrained in us. It's so deeply ingrained in us that we've never seen birth. We don't see birth, we don't see death, we don't see anything other than the normal, the ordinary in our really sterile, organized, modern societies here in the West. So it can really help to see just how many different variations there are, because then you feel more normal when you go into the experience and you can trust that. I think that's a lot.
But I think you touched on like the most important things. I agree with everything you said 100%. And I think that right now, more than ever, I mean, it's always true that everything you just said is so helpful and supportive in helping you have a positive birth experience. But right now, more than ever, just because of the levels of fear and anxiety, I think it's even more important. Like if it was this important before, it's this important, right? To really prepare yourself, body, mind, heart, and soul for birthing experience. And for that reason, right now I have Oh Baby, which is my program for expectant moms that touches on a lot of the points that you just said. It's available right now at a pay what you can rate to expectant moms, because I really want to be supportive for you all and really break down any barriers for you from you taking this journey. It's really so important. And with all, with COVID-19 and, can your support person be with you? Can you birth at a hospital, or do you have options to birth at home? There's a lot swimming right now. So to really center, to really connect in all the ways Erika so eloquently described is super, super important. Erika, I'm wondering if before we can conclude, I want you to, would you be willing to put on your nurse's cap for a moment and speak to women that are, oh gosh, I don't want to go into the hospital anymore, but maybe there are no, home birth options available to me at this stage, or how do I go into this environment where infectious disease is being treated? How can I keep myself safe? Can you speak to some of those concerns a little bit?
Yeah, so I think what's important is to trust that there's a level of competence and care at whatever hospital or birthing center you are in, to really trust that the severity of the situation now is respected and honored, and people will take the hospital staff will take the greatest measure to really make sure that patients will be safe, and birthing, women giving birth will be safe. And then in terms of how to have, how to have the most sort of primal experience in a hospital, I would really look at what you're allowed to bring. So asking and getting clear information from where you are going to. What can you bring? What are you allowed to take with you that will make you feel really relaxed? And it can be small items, but that really signal to you that this is an environment where you are safe, where you feel at home, where you can relax. If you want to be naked, if you want to wear clothes, then think about what kind of clothes would I want to wear and bring that, for example. Things like that will make you feel like you're bringing your home with you to where you are going, and transforming that environment to a place where you feel like this is my space, this is my environment. And then having a conversation with the hospital. I think autonomy there, you are a customer, basically. You are more or less paying for this service depending on where you are in the world. But even if you're, even if healthcare is free where you are, or you're still you're paying with your taxes. So you are a paying customer, and you deserve to be well informed and to have a conversation with people in charge. So really elevating yourself to feel like you have that autonomy, not only in birth, but before birth, to have a conversation that makes you feel prepared and safe and respected as a customer and as a birthing woman, because that will really take down any anxiety and stress so that your nervous system can relax.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I mean, really, women, what Erika is saying is you're not powerless. Even if you do have to go into a hospital, even if you do have to birth in ways that weren't exactly how you had planned or imagined, you're not powerless. And to really lean on your autonomy to ask questions and support yourself, surround yourself with the support you need, whether it's in what you take with you or the people that are with you, to still have that, really hold that tone for the experience that you want. Erika, yeah. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you want to share with anybody watching now or later that you think is really important?
Yeah, there was just one thing that came up, and I think it's so powerful to get clear on your desire and really work towards that with how you prepare and the things you do, books, courses, whatever you can do on your own, whatever it is. And I think there's also something that I haven't mentioned yet, but you also need to be completely 100% okay with everything going not as planned, because you don't know. And it's a really, you really need to take an honest look at that as well. And remember that you can give birth in any place, and you will have the experience that you will have. And if you can surrender to that, it will be as positive as possible, regardless of where you are, and not getting attached to the desire or to the idea, but allowing yourself and allowing your body to, the whole journey to unfold the way it will.
Yeah, I'm so happy you brought that forward, because I know sometimes like we get so inspired and so want to have the experience that we're witnessing somebody else have, that we can get really attached to it. And birth is a journey, just like life. You never know what you're going to get. Um, and you know, there's ways to ride those contractions if you don't get what you want, that can ways that can still take you higher. So I think having that support is really, really key. Erika, for people that want to reach out, to connect, to get to know more about your work, where can they find you?
Yeah, I am very present on Instagram, so they can find me there. It's my name, Erika Alsborn. I'm sure you'll have my name written somewhere so they easily can find it. And I talk a lot about sexuality, sensuality, birth. I have downloads to support you in those areas. And yeah, tune into that for inspiration to live a really sensually and erotically fulfilled life before, during, and after birth.
Amazing. I will definitely put the links to that, at your Instagram handle, in the show notes. And yeah, for those of you that want to take this deeper with your own clients and are interested in getting more access to tools of sensuality and sexuality, I run a year-long program for practitioners called the Ecstatic Birth Practitioner Training Program. And that begins in June, but early registration is now open. So I will put the link for that in as well, for anyone that's curious about how can I bring more of these tools in to support my clients. It's really, really powerful, as Erika's birth story and experience and expertise really demonstrates to us all. So thank you again, Erika. It's been such a pleasure and really such an honor to hear about your birth and about your experience, and really lean into your wisdom and expertise. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Yay. I hope it inspired someone to feel just excited about giving birth. Yeah.
I mean, people say this to me all the time, but like listening to you is like, I want to give birth now.
Yeah, I would do it so many times if I didn't have to deal with the result of all the babies.
Raising my kids, right?
Yeah, no.
Lots of love, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for being here today. Wishing everybody the best in their journeys.